20 years ago, when you clocked out, your workday ended. The physical distance between the office and the home created a sacred boundary. Today, the office is in your pocket. The factory is on your laptop. The manager is a blinking notification. The line between work and life hasn't just blurred. For millions across the globe, it has vanished entirely. The BBC article highlights this profound societal shift, how the very tools designed to grant us freedom, smartphones, high-speed internet, and remote access, have instead shackled us to a constant, unending commitment to productivity. We are in a state of chronic, low-grade burnout, desperately searching for the off switch in a world that demands we always be on. Welcome to QURANxINSIGHT, where we examine modern global crises, from psychological burnout to ethical dilemma, and explore the enduring wisdom and logical frameworks found in ancient texts. Today, we dissect the constant grind, the scientific cost of removing the boundaries of rest, and the timeless principle of balance, mizan, needed to reclaim our time and our sanity. To understand the collapse of the work-life balance, we must first look at the logical forces that powered it: technology and the speed of capital. The introduction of personal mobile devices and cloud computing meant that latency, the delay between a question and an answer, became socially unacceptable. If an email arrives at 9 p.m., the pressure, often self-imposed, is to reply instantly. This expectation of immediate availability is scientifically devastating. Studies in neuroscience show that chronic stress, often linked to the inability to disconnect from work, keeps the body in a state of sustained vigilance. This constant fight-or-flight state floods the system with cortisol, a stress hormone, which over time impairs memory, damages the immune system, and contributes to heart disease. Logically, a body and mind designed for cycles of exertion and deep rest cannot operate at 100% capacity 24 hours a day. It is an unsustainable energy model. Yet, the technology driving this change, artificial intelligence and automation, promises to remove human labor but often just redefines it, demanding quicker, higher-level cognitive output. Automation handles the mundane tasks, but we are left with the relentless, creative, and often emotionally taxing work that requires continuous engagement. Global data from platforms tracking remote work trends show that remote workers, while enjoying flexibility, often log more hours than their office-bound counterparts, struggling to signal the end of their workday. In countries across Europe, Asia, and North America, governments are now exploring right-to-disconnect laws to legally enforce rest. This proves the problem is systemic, not individual. The logical foundation of the 9-to-5 workday was not arbitrary. It was based on energy cycles, family needs, and the simple human requirement for a break. When those structural boundaries are removed, what remains is an ethical vacuum filled by the most aggressive pursuit of productivity. We often mistake activity for achievement. We fill our time with frantic email checks and superficial tasks, believing busyness equals success. The deeper wisdom, however, warns against the corrosive effect of endless, unexamined pursuit. The Quran frequently emphasizes the necessity of balance, or mizan. This principle is the very foundation of the cosmos. Consider the day and night cycle itself, a fundamental design principle of the universe, intended to regulate all life, from the tides to our cellular rest. The divine design is explicit, establishing a necessary rhythm for existence. The Quran says, "It is He who made for you the night to rest therein and the day to see. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who listen." Yunus 10:67. The verse doesn't just describe reality. It assigns a purpose to the night: rest. This purpose is a command woven into the fabric of life. Logically, if the Creator designed the entire world with a mandatory downtime cycle, then our individual human systems cannot possibly bypass this natural law without consequence. To deny rest is to commit injustice against one's own body and spirit. It is a violation of the internal mizan, or balance, entrusted to us. The modern affliction of burnout is, therefore, a logical consequence of defying the design principle of necessary cessation and renewal. The solution is not merely time management, but boundary management, rooted in ethical self-respect and acknowledging our natural limits. The temptation of constant connectivity also feeds a societal addiction to acquisition, not just of wealth, but of status, opportunity, and information. Social media and work platforms fuel a constant, destructive comparison, making us feel inadequate if we aren't constantly striving, constantly achieving. We are chasing an elusive, ever-receding finish line, driven by the fear that if we pause, we will fall behind. The deepest ethical wisdom offers a powerful counterforce to this addiction, the virtue of contentment, qana'ah. Contentment is not passivity. It is the logical acknowledgement of sufficiency, a mental firewall against the endless demands of the ego and the market. The divine message provides a strong warning against allowing the worldly pursuit to consume our lives entirely. The Quran says, "Competition in worldly increase diverts you until you visit the graveyards," at Takathur 102:1-2. This verse offers profound logical counsel. The frenzied race for worldly increase is a distraction, and the final destination of that race is the grave, rendering all material gains irrelevant. The only logical response to this realization is to prioritize meaning and presence over frantic, ceaseless accumulation. What does this mean in practical scientific terms for someone caught in the digital grind? It means reclaiming the physical space of rest. Architects and psychologists agree that the physical environment profoundly affects our mental state. When the bedroom becomes the office and the dining table becomes the conference room, the brain loses its spatial cues for disconnection. The logical step is to implement digital boundaries that mimic physical ones. This might mean scheduling a hard digital commute, a 30-minute transition period between the end of the workday and family life, even if you are just moving from one room to another. This practice scientifically allows cortisol levels to drop and the brain to transition from focused task mode to relaxed social mode. Furthermore, we must address the ethical pressure of the always-on economy, which disproportionately benefits employers while downloading the cost of infrastructure and perpetual availability onto the worker. Logically, if a service requires round-the-clock availability, that availability should be scheduled, staffed, and paid for, not simply presumed. The concept of justice, adl, requires a fair exchange between effort and reward, and between time given and time reserved, a recognition of the worker's haq, right. An unjust system is one where the worker is expected to give unlimited time for a limited wage. This violates the fundamental law of reciprocity. This principle extends to our use of technology in social life, too. Even outside of work, we are enslaved by the expectation of performing a perfect life online. The constant curating of a digital identity, the need for likes and validation, is its own form of invisible, unpaid labor. Psychologists call this social anxiety amplification, where the digital realm becomes a stage where performance is mandatory and rest is suspect. The logical escape from this is intentional incompleteness. Not everything needs to be documented, shared, or perfected. Allowing moments of life to exist solely for personal experience, free from the digital gaze, restores personal sovereignty and frees the soul from performance anxiety. We must also reconsider the logical fallacy of multitasking. Cognitive science confirms that the human brain does not truly multitask. It context switches, rapidly moving attention between tasks. This switching is energy-intensive, leads to errors, and significantly increases perceived stress and time pressure. The illusion that a smartphone allows us to check work emails while feeding children is a lie that robs both activities of our full presence and attention. The wisdom of focus and deliberate action, doing one thing well, is far superior to the scattered exhaustion of doing 10 things poorly. The antidote to the blurring lines is singular focus and deep work. This practice, when applied ethically, honors the effort given and respects the boundaries of the time allocated. For businesses, the logical solution lies in measuring outcomes rather than inputs. Instead of tracking hours logged or emails sent, companies must focus on the quality and impact of the finished work. This shifts the incentive from appearing busy to actually being productive, which inherently respects the worker's time boundaries. Global companies that have successfully implemented 4-day work weeks often report higher employee satisfaction and, critically, equal or better output. This scientific proof shows that shorter, more intense focus periods, followed by genuine rest, are logically superior to continuous, diluted availability. The principle of seeking sustenance is not meant to be a life sentence of labor. It is a means to sustain life and allow for higher pursuits. The ancient wisdom recognizes that human dignity requires both purposeful work and dignified rest. The divine instruction commands a conscious transition between effort and renewal. The Quran says, "So when you have finished your occupation, then stand up for worship." Al-Inshirah 94-7. The logical extension of this verse is a command for transition and completion. When work is complete, you must fully commit to the next purpose, whether that is devotion, family, or rest. When you are done with one task, work, you must consciously and fully transition to the next, whether it is devotion, family, or rest. It is a formula for singular focus and purposeful boundary setting. You cannot be in two states simultaneously. Therefore, the task of setting a boundary is not passive. It is an active, ethical choice, a refusal to let the chaos of technology dictate your inner peace. Science teaches us that to break a bad habit, we must replace it with a beneficial ritual. For the always-on worker, this means replacing the ritual of checking the phone before bed with a ritual of reading, talking, or silence. This psychological reprogramming is the hard work of reclaiming control over your own attention span, a necessary act of ethical self-governance. The logical imperative is simple. If you do not define your boundaries, the world of work, technology, and endless information will define them for you. And those boundaries will always favor external demands over your internal needs. The fight against the blurring line is ultimately the fight for self-respect. It's about recognizing your own limits as a finite human being in an age of infinite demands. The promise of the digital world was unlimited freedom. The reality is often unlimited servitude. The way out requires a conscious de-escalation of our digital presence and an increase in our physical, mindful presence. We must rediscover the joy of simply being, unmeasured by metrics or unvalidated by notifications. This is the essence of a grounded life, knowing when to strive and, more importantly, when to stop. The health of our families, the clarity of our thoughts, and the stability of our societies depend on our ability to honor the human need for rest. The blurring of the work-life line is a global challenge, transcending cultures and economies. The data shows rising mental health crises in parallel with rising connectivity. This correlation is a logical warning sign. The wisdom of balance, rooted in the universe's own design, offers the only sustainable solution. We cannot negotiate with the laws of nature or the laws of psychology. We must comply with them. Our freedom lies not in working whenever we want, but in having the conscious power to choose not to work when the time for rest arrives. This freedom is the true goal of work, to support a dignified life, not consume it entirely. Therefore, let the noise of the digital world quiet down. Let us establish strong boundaries that technology cannot penetrate. Let the night once again be for rest, and the day for purposeful, focused effort. This is the ethical path toward true productivity and genuine fulfillment. This is the logical choice for a future where humans thrive alongside technology, not enslaved by it. This movement begins with you, today, choosing to close the work app and open the book of life. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to QURANxINSIGHT for more stories that connect today's world with timeless truth.